Hi, my name is Anthony, and this is my energy portfolio presentation. It'll include a brief background on the energy situation and challenges in Australia at the moment, the Energy Trilemma Index of Australia, the implementation of solar and wind energy in Australia, and finally a conclusion and class reflection. Energy situation and challenge. Australia's energy generation is heavily dominated by fossil fuels. 81% of electricity generation in Australia was produced with fossil fuels in 2019. This breakdown is 60% coal, 19% gas, and 2% oil. Australia's reliance on coal has reduced approximately by 20% since the 1990s. However, renewable energy generation accounts for 20%, and its breakdown is 7% hydro, 6% wind, 5% solar, and 2% biofuel. Renewable energy generation has significantly increased in the last decade and has begun supplementing fossil fuels. Regarding the whole world context, the energy production based on resources can be split into coal at 38%, gas 23%, hydro and other 19%, nuclear 10%, solar PV and wind combined 7%, and 3% oil. The image to the left shows the change in energy use by type since 1992 to 2018, and the graph to the right shows the increase in renewable energy generation. Energy Trilemma. The World Energy Council is a non-government organization that aims to advance sustainable energy supply and consumption worldwide. On an annual basis, the World Energy Council seeks to evaluate countries' ability to provide sustainable energy numerically. The evaluation is based on the three dimensions that are identified as energy security, energy equity, and environmental sustainability. The 2019 report ranked Australia 28th in the global index with an overall score of 74.4. The security rating was 62 out of 100, the equity rating was 95 out of 100, and the sustainability rating was 64 out of 100. Energy equity. This measures the ability to provide access of reliable and affordable energy. Australia's equity remains stable over the past 10 years and has only seen a slight drop in the baseline since 2013, evident in the graph in the previous slide. This drop could be due to the drastic improvements made in environmental sustainability and may have slightly impacted prices among regions across Australia. Another explanation for the decrease in equity can be attributed to the increase in electricity prices due to government subsidisation of renewables like solar energy. Energy security measures the ability to meet current and future demand. Energy security was the lowest scoring metric at 62 out of 100 in the World Energy Council's Trilemma Index report. For Australia, the major threat to energy security in Australia is the rapid decarbonisation that has taken place due to the rise in global CO2 reduction agreements. Energy security may be hindered by the lack of cohesion between energy policies and plans between the federal and state governments of Australia. There seems to be a halt in the amount of investment at a federal level, which is the opposite at the state level. Australia's energy security has been shown to be comparable. In the year 2016, there was a significant issue with South Australia, which saw a statewide blackout due to severe weather events. 43% of their energy at the time was produced by wind farms. Environmental sustainability. This measures the ability to mitigate natural resource depletion and environmental degradation. Despite the score of 64 out of 100, Australia's environmental sustainability has improved over the last 10 years. It remains low due to Australia having a high reliance on coal-generated energy. Fossil fuel resources aid in maintaining the energy equity, though, within the country. A contributing factor to the overall improvement in this pillar is growth in GDP. The study conducted by Lil Marquez and Funhouse in 2018 identified a link between increased gross domestic product and increased investment in renewable energy technologies. Australia's sustainable energy future. The two renewable energy sources I have chosen are solar and wind energy. From a theoretical perspective, it has been determined that solar energy has the potential to supply the energy demands of the entire world if technologies for its harvesting and supplementation are implemented appropriately. The Earth's surface receives 4 million hectojoules of solar energy in a year. With assumptions that a quarter of the Earth's surface is available for wind energy harvesting, the annual energy available from wind is 1,925 hectojoules. Solar and wind energy are compatible with the Australian climate, which will be conveyed in the next slide with 2 graphs. Wind and solar energy are considered amongst the most mature renewable energy sources, which limits implications on energy security and equity. Wind and solar account for 11% of the total 20% of energy that's currently from renewable energy sources, and this split is 6% wind, 5% solar, so it is somewhat complicit with Australia's current energy breakdown. The image to the left conveys the daily solar exposure annual average, and as you can see, the central and western regions of Australia have a higher solar potential than the eastern and southern portions, and the image on the right shows the mean wind speed at 80 meters above ground level around Australia, and it's inversely related to the solar energy exposure. The wind energy is more effective in the southern and eastern portions of the country. As well as standalone solar and wind farms, we can implement them in a tandem system known as tandem implementation. The modelling and research conducted by Prasad et al. Deduced a strong correlation between energy efficiency increase with solar and wind energy as opposed to standalone farms. The two resources complement each other as weather changes, evident in the image below. Tandem implementation reduces issues of intermittency, so when there is no sun, the wind energy will do most of the heavy lifting, but when there is no wind and more sun, that is when the solar energy will take over. Intermittency issues can be reduced when energy generation systems are at a smaller scale, which is typical of renewable energy sources and systems as opposed to fossil fuel power plants. This concept is known as decentralization. As I mentioned before, we can implement decentralized wind and solar farms. Decentralized systems are defined as small-scale power generation plants that provide energy on a local scale. Solar and wind energy have been deemed appropriate candidates for this form of energy distribution. This would be particularly helpful in rural communities as they are currently not connected to the national electricity market. The move towards renewable energy inherently pushes the energy sector to a decentralized system. Finally, a conclusion and reflection. So throughout this subject, I've basically learned that there are many forms of renewable energy which have their advantages and disadvantages, and the success of their implementation is heavily dependent on the environmental, economic and political landscape of the nation. Whereas before I thought it was more of a science and engineering issue, I've come to realize that it's more than that. The overall trilemma scores suggest Australia is facing issues with energy security and environmental sustainability, more so than equity. To ensure the maintenance of all three pillars, the most desired approach in improving is a mutual gradual improvement based on realistic, calculated and reasoned targets, because the trilemma index has an interrelated nature, and improvements in one sector may hinder or decrease levels in another. To improve environmental sustainability, the two forms of energy that are most suitable for Australia I have found are wind and solar energy, as they fit the climate more so than hydro or biofuel. The implementation of these sources should be incremental as not to disrupt the distribution of energy and maintain the high energy equity we currently have. In terms of my own contribution to renewable energy and improving Australia's environmental sustainability, I believe that my contribution can be made in a personal and professional medium. In terms of personal medium, I can implement my own modular decentralized renewable energy at home, make informed political decisions when issues of renewable energy and sustainability and climate change are being discussed by politicians and are part of political campaigns for elections. I can also educate my friends and family on renewable energy so they can implement decentralized systems and make informed political decisions. On a professional and academic front, I can further improve my understanding of renewable energy by taking more courses like 42912 Sustainable Energy Resources, like this subject. I can also implement the knowledge I have learned from this course in my current job as an environmental consultant at an engineering firm. And furthermore, there's the potential for further higher research degrees in this field of study if I choose to go down that path. Thanks for listening to my presentation.